Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's All You Can Geek Moviecast, episode 528. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Gass, joined by Mike Sneedy.
What's up?
Corey Pine.
Yo, it's of the year, fools.
And Tony Cook.
Time.
Hello.
Gotta get the excitement, man. Finally. Let's do this.
I don't think any of us are really trying to look fondly on 2020, but...
Well, I mean, gaming-wise...
It's over. It's like closing the chapter, man. Get it done. Close it out. Finalize
it's more begrudgingly like, dust my hands off of this shit rather than like...
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about the good stuff. Oh,
are we?
We do have a disappointing, obviously, for these shows. I really haven't come up with one myself, because shows are different because it's like, you hear it's good, you want to watch it. But
you don't really invest in shows,
Yeah. But this is our of the years. Now, for those wondering, we obviously, if you're new here, if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, thank you, and hit that subscribe button. We appreciate the viewers here. If you're new here, though, we do our of the years, like best of, not like our, like it's not the best movie of the year. It's our best movie, like the ones we've seen, because we haven't seen everything.
Favorites.
Yeah, it's our favorites. It's favorites of the year, essentially, but it's best of. And we did a surprise. So we did our top 2 movies. A surprise, a disappointed, which I think I know Corey's. I think people know mine. TV-wise, I did a top 2. I did a surprise because that was easy, and I don't have a disappointed yet, but we'll see what we can figure out as I go. I'm trying to think of some stuff. But yeah, man, you guys just want to jump right into it?
Yeah, as well.
Let's go.
All right, let's start off with disappointed, because that one is the fun category that,
gotta start off with the bad news and then
I don't want to speak for Corey here, but I'll speak for Corey here. The most disappointing movie of 2020 has to be Wonder Woman 84. I mean, am I right? I can't.
It's not only the most disappointing movie of this year, maybe I've ever seen, but also like one of the worst. It's just like usually we try to say disappointing because we don't want to say bad things about movies, but I will shit on this movie as much as possible because it is a piece of pile of like rotten garbage, disgusting pile of shit. It's just terrible. And
there's no redeeming characteristics of it. There's no redeeming moment where I'm like, I enjoyed that part. I don't think I did, because they're like their favorite part, which I'm not giving up you guys spoilers. There's like a mall sequence in the beginning. That was supposed to be like a great part. I'm like, this is fucking lame in the beginning. I'm like, this is terrible.
What is that the stuff from that trailer that I made fun of earlier?
Yeah. It doesn't look any better. It doesn't look any better.
That's the high point.
Yep.
Yeah, it kind of is. And then you don't see Wonder Woman for like 50 minutes after that.
How do you? Yeah. Oh, it's bad.
It's
gone. It just undid what other movies have done. But go on.
Yeah, sure. The other thing is that it takes place in 84, and we've seen such incredible period pieces of that period, like Stranger Things and how it captures the feeling, even how it captures the feeling of that time. This movie does not do that at all. Even Captain Marvel did a better job of like making you feel like you're in the past and a time gone, just by having her fall in a blockbuster. Like, it's those little things they don't even do in this movie. Like, you never feel like you're in the 80s ever, except for maybe the guy's wearing a fanny pack and you're like, okay, whatever. But like at the end of the movie, I'm like, this looks like it's 2000. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like there's no at any point do you feel like, oh, they're taking advantage of the fact that they're in the 80s.
That was the thing. Like, there wasn't any of that in this movie. I mean, I guess they referenced Russia a couple times, I guess. That was like during the 80s, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you have some of that, and you have obviously the car. It's just they don't do it well.
It was bad.
Like,
it was just a bad.
You just don't feel the nostalgia that you felt with those other movies I mentioned or TV shows.
Yeah. All right, Mike, did you have a disappointing movie?
Well, my disappointing movie is also my best movie, my biggest surprise, and all of them because I watched one new theatrical release this year. That's it. So we don't need to go over it now.
Okay. Tony.
I guess I don't know if it really counts, but we were just talking about it, but it's Wonder Woman because, like, I wanted to...
You don't even need to see it.
I know.
I guess so. I would say the same, I guess, but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Mike, I will gladly write that down for you, and just I'll take, I have no problem saying for you that is your most disappointing movie. Trust me.
It will never... the thing is, like... It may surprise you as how bad it is also. So it could be your surprise too.
But the thing is, like, I was actually looking forward to this because, the first Wonder Woman was pretty good. It's one of the top tier DC EU movies. Gal Gadot surprised me.
Yeah,
stuff
the first
like
Wonder Woman movie was one of those movies, Tony, that you're like, I'm not watching this movie, and then we're like, no, dude, it's actually really good, and you watch it, like, yeah, that was actually pretty good for DC.
Yeah. So to have this one just be a complete 180, like Corey literally messaged me, do not subscribe to HBO Max just to watch this movie. It's absolute garbage, like literal paragraph of like things he hated. I was like, damn, okay. Because I was really hesitant because like, I was reading like rumblings online and stuff like that. I was like, there's no way it's that bad, right? Like, no way. And, just the more I read, the worse it got. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Just going to skip out on this one.
Bad. It was bad. It was bad. All right. Let's move into our surprise for 2020. And again, this is all
movies we're doing. We do movies first?
Yeah, we'll do the movies, yeah.
Okay.
So prize movie for me of the year was, I think, pretty clearly, I mean, you could make Wonder Woman that surprise, but I don't want to nominate that movie more than it has to be. So I'm going to say Sonic was my surprise movie of 2020. It's a fun movie. I've rewatched a video game movie. I rewatched it. It's like, how often does that happen for a video game movie?
I'll agree with that. That was actually my surprise of the year too.
I have to agree. I mean, it's slim pickings, and I know we're going to talk about it later on with Mike, I'm sure. But
I mean, again, it would be my surprise as well. But it's also
it definitely. When you saw the trailers for this originally, you're like,
the original trailers,
right, exactly. What are they doing? Like, this is the exact opposite of how you do a video game movie and like how you honor a character from a video game. You don't. It's like making Mario have purple pants or something. Like, why are you changing it up? Just make him what he looks in the game, and you're good. Like, that's all you need to do. He's already a cartoon character, and you're animating him as a cartoon character. Why do you need to make him look like a rat?
Like, make them look realistic. It's like,
so once they did that, like that delay actually was huge for them, and spending that extra money to make it right and to do right by the fans was a huge success, I think, for them. And that absolutely was one of the better films of this year for sure, even with it being one of the only ones in the theater that we could go to see.
I really do think it would have made my surprise no matter what for the year, like just how good that was. Even if like we had a lot of movies this year or last year, I just feel like this was so like 180 compared to what they showed us with that
set
trailer.
Up to fail so much.
Yeah,
like, it's absolutely just here's the T. Like you just drop the ball here, just drop it.
Yep.
Like, they didn't.
Absolutely. And
Jim
guys,
Carrey was a bright spot. Also,
I just want to say, Jim Carrey want to return to comedy role essentially. That was like a classic role for him. Yeah.
Like I've told people, I was like, even if you're not like a Sonic fan, but if you're an old school Jim Carrey fan, like watch this movie. Like he just is channeling that same Ace Ventura energy he had, or just over the top.
Yeah. Mike, you can add in when you get to the of the year for you. That's your best of.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into that. My number 2. You only have one movie, right, Mike?
Yeah.
There's
nothing else I watched.
So I did my top 2. My number 2 movie is Sonic for the year. Overall, Soul was really good. I didn't watch Onward. There's very few movies I actually watched that came out in 2020 that I watched. I've watched some older stuff, but I guess Disney Plus was actually a lot of the stuff I watched was on Disney Plus this year because it was free. And man, I really expected Wonder Woman to be on this part of this list, but so I'm going to give number 2 to Sonic for me, just because it almost was. I've said it many times, almost my movie of the year. It didn't quite make it because of the one movie that I have seen that was fantastic, maybe controversial, but we'll get into that in a minute. Of 2020, but we'll get into that in a second. I don't think it's controversial in terms of being a great movie, but the year. So, Corey, what would be your number 2?
My number 2 is Extraction. Extraction is a Netflix release on with Chris Hemsworth playing a character that essentially is sent in on a suicide mission to get a warlord's son, and yeah, he has to encounters a whole bunch of thugs and police and stuff, and it's got the gritty action and cool chases and like choreographed sequences. I would say it's got that whole John Wick feel of making you be able to see what's happening and get into the action and really appreciate what's going on stunt wise. And I thought it was a great film, regardless of it being on a smaller streaming service. I mean, the biggest streaming service, but the small streaming. Number 2 movie was Extraction.
Cool. All right, Tony.
Nice. Number 2 for me was actually something I did manage to catch in theaters as well, right before the pandemic hit, and that was Weathering with You by Makoto Shinkai, who did my, I want to say 2018 movie of the year with Your Name. And so it's an animated movie, movie, but it was just so beautifully drawn, and really, that's one of those movies I'm glad I was able to see on the big screen, because it's just, the colors are just vibrant and deep, and just really adds to the immersion of the quality of what they're doing. And with this, it was more of a Tokyo-centric thing, so that was really cool to see. And the soundtrack is just wonderful. They got the same major band to do the soundtrack, so it was like a lot of the same thematics and stuff like that. So that's why, even though it was really good, just because it had a lot of the same beats, I was like, okay, I've been here, done this before, experienced it, but it's still just a really awesome thing to see. And it's a bit more supernatural than the previous one. And there's actually some darker...
A bit more supernatural? I don't know about that. It's more, I guess one's more of a Freaky Friday, and the other one's more of a, I got superpowers, I guess.
Yeah. I guess it depends on, what you mean, stuff like that. With Your Name, it didn't seem like something they could control necessarily.
Sure.
Like that. So,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So there you go. But beautiful, awesome.
Yeah, cool. All right, my number 1 movie, Mike, why don't you kick us off, because we talk about your Sonic. I mean, that's your number. So.
Yeah, no, I think I'm probably the biggest Sonic fan in this group.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, Corey, old school Sega, but I think you're still
Sonic's my boy, but I'm not as a big fan.
So I was very skeptical at first when we first saw, the early looks at him, like we were saying. But I came around when they came around, and I'm like, all right, I need to see this, and I actually did see it. It was one of the first movies to have, that early online release right after its theatrical release. So I didn't see it in theaters, but I did see it, shortly thereafter. And it was worth it. I like, it takes you back to the 90s, with Sonic and old school style Jim Carrey. I kind of thought for a while that the Jim Carrey take on Robotnik would actually be pretty interesting. So that was good. And, it's not like a great movie, and there's a lot I kind of wish they went into more with it, or like I almost would want it like a half step more serious. But it's a good first like opening this world of Sonic, and again, like as far as video game movies go, it's one of the best, if not the best. So the character was mostly there, right? We got Cyclops running around like a good boy. As this human stand-in guy.
That's right.
And it was good. It was funny. It was a good basic, but still good, like sort of kids movie. And it makes me more excited about what they can do going forward, perhaps more than what actually happened in this movie. But
yeah, I think it's a good launching point for a Sonic franchise for movies.
Yeah, but no, it was a surprise, because I kind of thought it would be terrible, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Pretty good, solid movie.
All right. My number 1 movie of 2020 was Hamilton. So
I thought it might be. I was like, if it's not Sonic,
is that really a movie?
Yeah,
it made a movie out of the play.
It is a movie on Disney Plus, and I argue that this movie, Broadway show, which is now a movie translated to a movie, should be up for Academy Awards, because they're saying that wouldn't qualify because it wasn't filmed in 2020, or didn't, like some weird stupid, which how many films are filmed in 2020 that came out last, like most of them come out. Yeah.
What was this a recorded earlier like performance?
It was
That's
a
all it
recorded
was?
performance earlier that they finally mixed into a movie, essentially. For the, I mean, it's the play essentially, just going to Broadway, but you watch it on Disney Plus. I loved it. It's the first time I've ever seen it. I didn't get to go to Broadway to see it, and because it launched this year, or last year, I mean, on Disney Plus, that's my number one. And like, I mean, listen, there's been some pretty good animated stuff, like I said, on Netflix and Disney Plus, but this was. I mean, I listened to the soundtrack nonstop after watching this movie. So like, I still every now pop it on every now and again to kind of like just you kind of get in that work mode and you just pop that on. I think it's a great soundtrack, and yeah, so that's my number one movie for 2020. I think if you haven't seen it, check it out because it's fantastic. I would love to go see it on Broadway at some point.
Yeah, well,
if we ever get back to that. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it deserved it. When I thought about what else I had seen for the year, I'm like, that's for me what I did. So, Corey, what was your number one?
well, my number one was already mentioned, and that is Weathering with You.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
So it's one of the like best, like we talk about Your Name and how awesome that movie is, and this movie's not as good, like we've said. I don't see it hitting my top 10 of the decade, which Your Name was in my top 10 of the decade, top 5, I think, and it was. This film, though, like, and what he does, like you said, with the art is just so amazing. Like, it just looks fantastic. And then it's all about, like, bringing you up. And, like, when you're in a space that you don't think is ever going to get better, or you don't know what's, like, what to do with your life or anything, it's just, like, there's always something to look forward to, always a way to bring sunshine, pun intended, into the world. And that's what this movie was, and it's such a crazy thing to like look back on after this year that we just went through, because
you're right. Yeah.
The fact that this whole movie is about like Tokyo, Japan, and just like the weather is just always raining. It's just always constantly raining to a point where, and towards the end, like it just actually gets flooded. But that's something that happens where that's a trigger for that. But it's always raining, and this girl has this power to bring sunshine into the world, and what that does for people, and how it, like, being able to see a blue sky, like, just lifts the spirits of you. And it's just like I said, when I was going through this list, I didn't even think about it too much until, like, I was thinking just like, wow, this year and that movie and like what it represented, it just like hit me. I was like, holy crap! And so I had to watch it again. I was like, oh my god, this is definitely my number one movie. Because it came out January, I think.
I kind of wish I'd watched it.
It came early.
Yeah. And it was just like, I was just like, oh, I was blown away. And again, it's hard because I want to compare it to Your Name, but it is its own film, and I don't want to just be like, all right, here's the same, like you're saying, the same beats and stuff like that, and all right, wait for that thing to like twist the thing, and except you knew it was going to happen, but it still was satisfying. It was still a fantastic film and made me feel like, happy again. It made me feel like, wow, this is, there is bright spots even in the darkest moments. And that's why that's my number one film.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You might have made a compelling argument for me to switch my number one to my two. Because the thing is, like, my number one, which if we're getting to me now, it has a little recency bias because I literally just watched the other week.
Okay.
And it's Pixar's Soul. Because for me, that kind of came out of nowhere. Like, literally, I was just like, it's another Disney Pixar thing where, in my opinion, I think Pixar has kind of been on I don't want to say like nothing
downward trend.
Downward trend, or just kind of like, they're not at their peak anymore and stuff like that.
Right.
Especially after like Incredibles 2, I felt kind of disappointed with. Toy Story 4, I was like, why does this exist other than to make the money and stuff like that? Cars I've never even touched. But Soul just like really caught me off guard with just the quality of it. And like I was saying the other week in the podcast, like it just felt a little bit more mature than their average storyline in terms of like the thematics and just what they were talking about. And even as an adult, you're like thinking about this stuff and you're like, okay, well, yeah, like maybe this wasn't my purpose or like your spark or whatever like that. But, as a kid, it's like, oh, whatever, just like these characters running around saying and doing funny things and stuff like that. And just because it's, 3D animation, but like the animation is top tier as well in its own way, compared to like Weathering with You, just the way they do things, and especially with the supernatural characters, just the things that they had them do with throughout the movie in terms of like transmorphing and growing and shrinking and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was really clever in terms of that. But yeah, just really solid movie. And yeah, like I I said, thinking back, if I'd watched Weathering with You, maybe I'd switch them around, but they're both definitely top two, and both movies that like actually made me feel things this year, which it's not something I'm usually like looking for or anything like that. I don't like go and be like I want to feel something out of this, but it's just like let me watch this because it sounds interesting, and then if it makes me feel something, that's kind of just like a bonus,
Gotcha. All right, that's cool. Yeah, I mean that was really good, and I mean for me, like I really enjoyed Sonic a lot, and like I'm telling you guys, I still Hamilton. I just love that. So it just didn't make my top, but it could easily be up there. Yeah. It could easily be up there. So I now have my worst TV show. I remember.
Okay.
I have remembered.
Well, disappointing, not worse. Disappointing.
Oh no, this is bad. I'm sorry, people. COVID made you guys all, not you guys, not the podcast people, but the world. This made you all blind to how bad Tiger King actually is. Jesus Christ. Like, that show is terrible. I mean, that would have been a flop without
You watched it?
I watched 5 episodes of it. I couldn't finish it. Like, that was really bad. So I'm going to make that my most disappointing thing of 2020 TV show-wise is Tiger King. I went through, like, lists of stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's it, without a doubt. Because it was so hyped. People are like, oh, it's so good. It's like, no, it's not good at all, actually. It's just, it's shit. And even like it's not even like so bad that it's good. It's just bad. Like that's it. I'm sorry, people. COVID made you all blind.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it. It looked dumb. So I was like, why bother?
Yeah. Corey, what was your TV show disappointing?
Thing is, like, I didn't really have one. The only thing I'm gonna mention it just because I thought that maybe this was gonna be more on the level of Castlevania, but the Dragon's Dogma, like animated show on Netflix was god awful. Like. The animation was terrible, and like the story at the beginning, I didn't even finish the episode. I was like, "This is it. I'm out already." Because I thought like, oh, Castlevania was awesome. Like now they're gonna go with Dragon's Dogma, and we're gonna get some other video game animation stuff, and it just wasn't that at all. So that's my most disappointing.
All right, Mike.
Mine is the disappointing in the way that the classic, everyone says it's good, so then you go see it and you're like, eh. And that for me was the Harley Quinn cartoon on DCU.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just I watched the first like
oh, it wasn't for you. That's right.
3 or 4 episodes. I'm just like,
it's not your universe. It's not your jam.
I'm trying to see like what everyone sees in Harley Quinn, this character. Like I thought maybe this cartoon would do it, and it did not. And I'm like, eh.
No, I just like the comedy aspect of it, and even like Batman in that show is I like his character, the way it's a comic Batman essentially.
I mean, I saw him. He hasn't been there much in the first 3 episodes. He was there like maybe for a second, but I don't know. I just lost interest after like 3 or 4 episodes. I'm like, it wasn't for me. So that was disappointing.
Tony.
So mine might be a little controversial, but again, it's not my worst. It's just
disappointing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But Cobra Kai season 3, actually, the more I get out from it, the less fulfilled I am with the season. And again, it's not that it's bad. It's still a great show. It's funny.
Just nothing happens in it, is what you're saying?
that's exactly what I would really say. And without we all haven't seen it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We have seen it, or Mike? Have you seen it, or not?
Mike?
I have actually this week. I saw the first episode of the first season.
Oh god.
Yeah, he's way back.
All right. So without
I don't think I'm gonna watch it because it's not. It's before my time, really. Like it means nothing to me seeing these characters.
Okay. So I guess just to spoil it for any listeners, I just light spoilers, not huge things, but I just feel like this season, like you said, Corey, nothing happened. Like I feel like we got 8 episodes and nothing really got accomplished.
Right, it's like you're ending almost exactly the same place you started season. Yeah, from season 2 to season 3's ending. It's like we're almost in exactly the same spot. The only difference is now, Johnny and Daniel are training together, I suppose, instead. But it's still just like same thing with Kreese. It's like, all right.
Yeah, it just feels like if this were an anime, this would be a filler season. This would be a filler season for sure. This is like, wait a second, like, what are you doing here?
You're building up to this point, and then you don't even get it.
You don't even do it, yeah. And kind of the other thing too is look, I get it. Like Karate Kid, I mean, it was never like so ultra serious or anything to begin with. Really quick, and just I'll end it here, and we can talk about it a little bit more. But I guess the thing that kind of like threw me off this season was like how overly cartoony this season was. Almost a direct analogy to Karate Kid Part 3, where just like they went overboard with the like over the topness.
I don't think
like,
they did. I disagree
really?
on that, but I don't agree with you on that. I mean, it made my number 2, but like it also I understand, like I understand the comments, and I am biased in that situation because I was a huge Karate Kid Part 2 fan, like the movie, so that played me on this entire season. So I disagree.
The movie is fantastic. I was the nostalgia thing almost was like here, it's in your face. These people remember them, and they flash back to the moment. Like, remember this guy, flashback to this moment. Remember this person.
Some people have never seen it. Mike's never seen it, so if he tell those people,
he's gonna need that flashback. To me, it felt like a little like, all right, I get it. Like you did it the first time, and then you did it now, but But
I feel like they made some good progress this season. Unlike you guys, I feel like there was a lot of progress made because, I can't try to keep spoilers off of this, but we're in a completely different spot than we were in the beginning of the season.
Okay.
We
can get into it. I would love to do a spoiler cast. Where we should deep dive into it.
We should.
But really quick, just to overcap, my personal opinion is just like I felt like, for example, like there's anytime the kids were fighting, it was so like, how are you guys not getting arrested for any of this? Like at all? Like there's no consequences, and especially in the last episode, you're like, wow, you clearly broke and entered and committed assault, and nobody's getting arrested here. Like they made it a point where, Robbie got thrown into juvie for one thing where it was an accident. It was an accident. It's not like he intentionally tried to, kick him.
Not like Tori, who like actually like
pulled out
scarred,
a
weapon. Yeah,
and it's just like no, just you sent him to my house, and it's like, well, did you call the cops, bro? Like, no, you're just going after the sensei. Like, okay, that like my first thing would be like call the cops, get people arrested, and then whatever. But again, great show. It's just to me, it didn't hit
it's a really good show.
It didn't hit the same heights of season 1 and season 2.
Okay, and I can see that too. I still love the show. But
I love the show. I want more of it.
They played more fanboys this season, I think, than they did the other season.
Well, yeah, definitely. Because you had like those 4 characters that just like here's people that you really wanted to see, and
I was like, the whole time, like, But yeah, so all right, that was the disappointing surprise show of the year for me. Absolutely, 100% was Queen's Gambit. It's a chess show that was fucking great, like fucking incredible, and. Like I said, it didn't make my top. For me, it didn't make my top, but only because nostalgia for me got played so hard for those top 2.
We know you love nostalgia. We know you love nostalgia, Jim.
Yeah, so I'm not even going to try to dispute that. Like,
that's why I was like, it's kind of obvious what they're.
Yeah, my 1 and 2 are so easy that I just was like, but Queen's Gambit, like, should have won. I'm sorry. You're right, guys. I mean, it's a great show.
We like.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still getting the credit here. It's all good.
It should have won, and it's so surprising how good that show. Mike, have you checked that out yet?
What, Queen's Gambit?
On Netflix. Yeah, it's on Netflix.
I have no interest in watching that.
You definitely should check it out. I mean, I think it's worth a watch.
If Ashley's ever trying to watch something with you, we'll just watch it with her. I guarantee you will like it. Like, you'll still like it.
I don't know if he'll like it, but I think he won't dislike it.
Okay, that's true. Exactly. That's true.
Exactly.
Well, and that's my surprise, actually, because one of those things happened. And
what? All right, well, then roll into it. Go ahead.
I mean, and the only thing I could think of, I was surprised I didn't dislike was Uploaded.
Uploaded.
So we watched that.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's
that
not,
was surprising. You're right.
It's not my top 3, but I watched the whole thing through, and it was solid. So I was surprised that I don't even know like where that came from, or like kind of out of nowhere to me. But
yeah,
I mean, I got it recommended to me, and I was like, well, let me check it out, and then I hit at the right time of like being home and wanting to watch something, so that was it. All right, Corey, what was your surprise?
My surprise was Harley Quinn. I did not think they were going to do or go in the direction they did with that show, and I thought it was fantastic. I loved the comedy aspect of it, the fact that it is super gory and it is a completely different like universe of DC that is the viewpoint of Harley Quinn, and I think Ivy is one of the best realized characters on shows that I've seen this year. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn.
All right, Tony.
Mine, I guess I can go with this because half of it was released in 2020 as new content. But surprise for me was High Score Girl. Just because again, this is at the beginning of the pandemic. I was just looking for things to binge, and I read the description because it was recommended to me, and I was like, okay, like whatever. Like I read the description and it's just like, oh, guy good at video games meets girl that's good at video games. Had no idea that it was actually going to be fairly accurate representation of, the 90s. Because I was expecting like super generic, like, Walk-Donald instead of McDonald's, where it's like, I don't know, Street Rager instead of Street Fighter, something like that. But like, no, this anime went all in. It's like, this is straight up, they're playing Street Fighter 2, like the pinnacle premier fighting game of the 90s, just like Street Fighter 2 right at the beginning. And they continued it throughout the entire season, just gradually going, oh, now it's Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Now it's, Super Street Fighter 2.
Sidewalk Brawl.
Yeah, exactly, and stuff like that. And they committed to it. And it was just fantastic seeing them go through, like, years and years and covering the systems, too. Like, oh, do I get a PlayStation or I get a Saturn?
Oh, like 1 point I was Saturn guy. I can't play.
Yeah, it's like, like, I'm cheating on my, my Saturn and stuff like that. But the story was really well done, too. And I know it was... the second half definitely leaned a bit more on the romance side, but it was never to the point where I was just like, oh God, like, just get back to the video game or something like that. I think each part supplemented the other side of it and stuff like that. And just so memorable, just Guile being like the inner voice where it's like, just.
Yeah, I mean,
dude.
Haru.
You
must focus.
You must focus. So yeah, that was my surprise.
That was a great show. All right. Like I said, my number 2 TV show was Cobra Kai season 3. So that was my number 2.
It came out last year. What are you talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh shit, that's right. I made that my surprise. I did this all wrong. Well, it was January 1st. I watched it all that day. My whole list is busted.
Well, when did season 2 come out? Season 2 come out in 2020? No, right? 2019?
2019.
It's 2019, but that's okay. I
was waiting because I knew you were gonna say as you see that. I was like, wait, it's like, dude, you didn't come out last year.
It's okay. I mean, honestly, Queen's Gambit deserves to be on the list, and that's perfectly fine to make that number 2. So, at least we all know. The problem right now is Cobra Kai. I feel like it's gonna get buried. I mean, we have so many Disney Plus stuff coming. Wow.
Crazy. Friday.
Queen's Gambit is my number 2 then, because I can't count Cobra Kai.
Did we do threes yet?
I did top 3?
No, I only do 2.
I only did 2 for the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 for the game.
3. So,
Mike, you can give us 3. That's fine.
Oh, sure.
So that was my number
movie. So
love that show. I already mentioned it as my surprise. Mike, what was your number 3 then for me? I'll do.
I actually just changed upload to this one because when you mentioned Tiger King, so it's The Last Dance. If we're doing.
Oh,
that.
Okay.
Yeah. Big Michael Jordan.
That was a very popular. Yeah, that was a very popular.
And it was very interesting. Yeah, sort of.
I thought it was a movie. It's like a. It's a
series.
Yeah,
short series.
Big series. Yeah. That basically covers the Bulls in 1998, their last title run there, focused on Michael Jordan, and it was interesting. But it's not higher just because it's a little dry, and I expected maybe a little more behind the scenes.
A lot of it's stuff you already knew too.
Yeah,
there's some new stuff, but
there's a little. Yeah, it's just a slightly different angle at stuff mostly. But it was interesting, and I definitely was excited to watch that. For the month or so that it was on.
Yep.
So that was there for me.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Number 2 is Corey.
TV was crazy this year because we didn't have the movies that we normally have. There was so much more television, and there's a lot of television stuff that I wish I could put up here, because if we're going to do only 2, it's like, oh, I want this and I want that.
I mean, I told you about
Lock
when we
and Key
logged
was
on.
great, and then Umbrella Academy is great stuff.
Umbrella. There was like, I mean,
yeah, so many good Netflix
Shadows.
shows. Exactly.
The Shadows was another one. Yeah.
But my number two is The Mandalorian. So season 2. I'm sure it's gonna get talked about some more, so we'll just save it for then.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So obviously, we've already. I'm not wearing a preview at all of my number 1, but yeah. So all right, number 2 for you, Mike. Your number 2 then.
My number 2 is actually Doom Patrol season 2.
Oh, cool.
I mean, and it was kind of a surprise that I got into this at all, but when I was into DC Universe, I was getting through there, and the first season was surprisingly good for me. And this one, it's sort of like the same type of thing. I've said it a bunch of times. This Legion, this very strange sort of psychological, like magical realism world of like superheroes, and right now, so even though it ended very like strangely and abrupt, it was still a good second season, and I'm curious about season 3, which I think is, I don't even know if it started or not, but again, it's another thing that's walled off behind HBO Max, which I may or may not do ever. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's expensive, but they run specials on it all the time. So keep your eye out. But yeah. All right. Tony, your number 2?
Mine would also be for number 2, Mandalorian season 2.
Okay.
Which I assume we'll talk about shortly.
Yeah, I mean, that's my number 1, so I can just go into it right now to roll it in.
It's my one.
Obviously, I loved it. We talked about it like
and
a billion
Mike's
times.
number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right.
Look, he's there behind me.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even have one.
Product placement. Person
of the year.
I mean, we did a spoiler cast in this show. You know how much I love this season, everybody listening. So for me, obviously the finale was great, but the rest of the season was fantastic too. I thought it had one episode that I was like, this wasn't a good episode, but that was it. I mean, it felt like filler. I'm sorry, that was a good episode. It felt like a really filler episode. So, but we had my 2 favorite Star Wars characters of all time in the show, and I mean, what do you guys want me to do? I mean,
I want you to put a ugly cry reaction on YouTube and then get to comment.
Get made fun of,
yeah.
Get views, yeah. So, that's my number 1. Guys, go ahead. Now you can talk about it more. Mike, I know it was your number 1, but Tony and Corey, it was your number 2, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's number 2, and I go for all the same reasons we talked about on our spoiler cast. I think that this season definitely felt more like, let's open up this universe of The Mandalorian to all these new shows, more so like we're setting up characters and stuff, so we'll briefly see them, but at the same time, it's just every episode was very good. There were a couple here and there, but I definitely thought this season was even, just production-wise, just like settings and cost, it's just so pretty to look at, and you got to see some pretty interesting things. A couple times a little frustrated with Mando, but overall it was fantastic television for sure.
Yeah. Tony, it was your number 2 as well?
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's still a great season. I don't want to. It's tough because if I directly compare it to season 1, I think season 1 edges it out just for the originality factor and stuff like that, and the newness.
Had a surprise factor.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas this season, like half of it was like, hey, it's still a continuation of the first season in terms of like, getting the child back to whatever. But yeah, from the locales, we got to see a bunch of different environments, which I appreciated. New characters, obviously. It was just awesome, and it just shows the strength of what you can do with the IP when you just go buck wild, and you can literally make a story that you want to tell that's just like pretty original in terms of, hey, what if ... we had a character that was a Mandalorian that was more to the old religion and the old faith or whatever it is, and then we pair him up with a force sensitive or force strong child that's of the same species of Yoda. Like, I don't know. Let's write a series about it and stuff like that. Like, if somebody had pitched that to me, I'd be like, nah, I don't know. That sounds weird, but like seeing it just works and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's excellent, and there's a lot of great moments. Obviously, Ahsoka Tano coming back, making an appearance. Sorry, I spoiled that. If you hadn't heard by now, I mean, where have you been? Where have you been?
I don't know how they wouldn't have heard by now, even if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, and
I don't
the
even
Luke
know.
Skywalker thing, but that was great, and just kicking that off to more TV shows where, in my opinion, I think is where you can get I've been saying that, where you can really get the character depth and the character growth that a lot of people want out of the series, instead of just like flashy lightsabers and pew pew, space
6 hours worth of movies that just
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Mike, number one.
Yeah, no.
What's your number one?
All that, yeah, and it's really, to me, the first season and this season, the first consistently like cinema quality type of TV show. Really, like, it doesn't seem like a step down. They don't have to be afraid of grabbing certain characters from the universe, which I think is an important part of this here. This is why I think this season was pretty exciting, because I feel like, like I said, like I'm so conditioned with like other stuff. It's like, oh, this is just a TV show. Like, they can't get certain characters.
The CW stuff, yeah.
CW stuff, like even to a lesser extent, like we would say, like, even stuff within Star Wars universe before, like, well, they're not going to go there but now they went there, and so it was just, it's a good combination of being like cute and exciting. The action is still good, and they touched on it, and again, it's an outsider's sort of perspective to the established like Star Wars canon a bit. So you get to come in and be Mando and be like, what is all this? Why is all this? But it's like, okay, let's do this, and let's see how I can bring what I can do and affect this world in an interesting way. So it's good. And my only hesitation with this season is it kind of serves better as like a series finale, I think, than a somewhere in the middle, which is where it's going to be. Like, I don't know where they go from this. I don't know how you bring this guy back convincingly unless you do something stupid.
Grogu dies at the temple due to the hands of Kylo Ren.
He would need to not be leaving Luke, which I think he will for the next season for some reason or another. Because I don't see them going forward. He's too popular without for another season. So they're gonna have to come up with something kind of stupid, I think, to get him away from there. But
secretly, I hope that just like Luke got trolled by Yoda on Dagobah, I hope that Grogu trolls the shit out of him, and just like, he can't control a baby, he can't control him.
Yeah. No.
That'd be kind of.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. All right. Corey, your number one.
I think my number one is the same as Tony's number one, but I'm gonna say Queen's Gambit number one.
Yeah.
I penciled it in for you early. I
was like, but I was like, Tony hasn't mentioned this show, and I know he liked it a lot, so I think it's number one. But Queen's Gambit, man, that obviously came out of nowhere, like we said before, and it would have made my surprise, but I wanted to give Harley Quinn a little bit of a recognition. But this show was just absolutely fantastic, and probably the best thing I watched all year, is I believe. I think, like, growing up with her, it was really neat watching her like learn chess and like just understand it immediately. And being a big board game fan and like growing up playing chess a bunch, it was really cool to see like it in this perspective, and how they created this like their own little world or universe, that chess is super important to, and like you can make a lot of money doing it. And it's like I guess it's not now, you couldn't, I don't think, but the chess masters and stuff, it felt like an anime, absolutely. And the character is so well like depicted, and the time period and the costumes and the way that as Beth grows from being this adolescent, like dorky kind of kid, to this really fashion forward woman who's playing chess and has to deal with being a chess player in a and that being like a man's world essentially, and she is basically the only woman playing chess in all these scenes, except for maybe the first girl she plays. There aren't any other women that are playing, and just her dealing with that, and at the time period that she is playing chess, in the 60-ish area, I think they have it. It's just very, very well done, and they really, I think, I know someone who's like, oh, they destroyed the chess playing tournament. I was like, what are you talking about, man? Come on. It's like I think they did a very good job realizing the game and rewarding people that know chess, because every game was a real game that they played, and like they had professional masters, grandmasters come and make sure that if you were a chess fanatic, you were not getting gypped on what like they were doing and stuff like that. And the actors had to memorize the games, because some of them had to be like legit games where they actually had to play them out, and so they actually had to memorize the moves to make sure that everything was legit.
Like everything about that show just feels like an anime. Like absolutely, like I feel like anime have done their research. Like Tony, you just talked about High School Girl, where it's the actual game in the show. And like I remember talking about this with Initial D. Remember Initial D, where they researched cars and what they could actually do, and then it's like I feel like
everything about it legitimizes the anime or show even more, because it is all real. It could be something that happens or happened. And my sister even mentioned like, oh, I wanted to learn more about this Beth Harmon chick, and then it's like, wait, she's a fictional character? I thought this was a real thing. But yeah, so it was really great. And I just want to say, like, the way they filmed the matches, I think, was really well done. The cinematography in that, and how the focus was on the player more so than the board, and you really felt that when you're watching it. And you can
Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? Corey covered most of it, but I mean, as a timepiece period, it was amazing, just in terms of costuming, location, wardrobe, hairstyle, all that stuff. Like, and at no point did I ever like watch an episode and be like, that doesn't look like it would be. Not that I would know, obviously, but like, no, or I was like, are you sure they had that back then? Like, I don't know. Like, I know you guys mentioned it earlier with Wonder Woman 84, and that, you know, we were all in the 80s and stuff like that, but. Yeah, just like Corey said too, it came out of nowhere. It was just like one of those things that I saw recommended to me, and I was like, and I think Corey had said like, yeah, it's really good. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out this weekend, and I binged through it, just because it has that really super addicting quality where it's like you just want to get to that next episode. Yeah, and they did do a wonderful job of building Beth up from this child that experienced tragedy, and you know, just went from like out of the fire or out of the frying pan into the fire with like, oh, you were in a bad scenario now, like now you're in a really bad scenario, and just with drug addiction and how that stunted her probably as a child, but also alcoholism, like as she grew up, obviously not as a child, but you know, I love it because it wasn't like she was a perfect character. Yeah, she was really good at chess, but yeah, also she was socially awkward. She had family problems. She had relationship problems. She didn't jive with a lot of people. Like, she just didn't understand social relationships just because of her awkward, years and stuff like that. But yeah, anime at its best. And like, that's not to say like, that as a bad thing, but just the structure of the arc where it's like, hey, this character's learning and training and growing. And along the way, along this professional circuit, this rise to professionalism, like she meets and makes rivals and friends becomes rivals, and rivals become friends, and friends become lovers, and all that stuff. But it works because, it feels natural. And again, at no point would I be like, oh, really? Like, you just kissed that dude? I'm like, yeah, I kind of expected that to happen. Like, just chemistry and that spark and whatnot and stuff like that. But yeah, what can I say? It's just awesome show. Hardly anything that I can really criticize about it, to be honest, other than
it's good.
It's one of those things where like if they ended it and I part of me hopes that they're like that's it, because I wouldn't want to see another season where they did this and it just was bad or like worse, because I'd be like, it's kind of like,
I don't know what else would they do. Like I just like I'm good with this. I'm absolutely good with this story.
But the other thing I would mention is like it was a great length. Like they didn't overextend it. They didn't. It was 7 episodes and that was it. It's like the story they wanted to tell was fit in those episodes, and they didn't drag it out or anything. So.
And I mean, any time where you can take something like, I mean, I loved chess as a kid. It was something I grew up playing with my dad, and that helped me, get into like board games. Like Corey said, where like I love board games now. but just seeing a focus of like chess, and it's like, wow, like, for decades, I want to say probably forever, chess has been kind of viewed as like that's super nerdy and like kind of like that, down looked upon thing. And this series comes out for Netflix, and then you see via Google Trend history, like, oh look, how to play chess, boom, like skyrockets through the roof. Chess kits are selling out in stores and online because people are getting chessboards because they want to learn how to play chess. I mean, you got to respect something that can just be like, hey, we're a fictional piece about a game, and we're going to make this game interesting again.
Yeah.
And appealing to a new audience.
All right. That is our best of and worst of and surprising of 2020. So, well, disappointing. Well, in the movie side of things, I'm safe saying the worst.
Fair enough.
So, thanks for tuning in for this episode. You can write us allyoucangeek@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. If you're watching this again on YouTube, hit that subscribe and like button. Leave some feedback for us. Let us know what you guys think of your lists. We'll see you guys on the Gamecast and next week. Thanks for tuning in.